Boy. Hi everyone, Boythany Boy Tano here, the internet's busiest music nerd. And it's time for a review of the new Dirty Projectors album, Lamp Lit Prose. The indie and art pop outfit Dirty Projectors, they are back. Once again, obviously, with singer and songwriter and multi-instrumentalist David Longstreth at the helm. He's kind of gotten the band back together though on this new record, not quite the solo venture that the last self-titled record from Dirty Projectors was. The project has undergone quite a bit of evolution since its inception in the early 2000s. In the group's back catalog are very experimental and progressive lo-fi indie and art rock records like Glad Fact and Rise Above. Ventures into chamber pop such as Slaves, Graves, and Ballads. We also have the landmark indie pop record Bitte Orca, the strangely stripped back Swing Low Magellan, which led to the group's crumble, kind of bringing it simply down to David, who then took Dirty Projectors into that weird one-off solo alternative R&B venture that dropped last year. But now, as I said, with this new record over here, a band for Dirty Projectors is back together. Maybe not the band, but a band. And it sounds like with this one, David is finally starting to pick up where records like Orca left off, but also continuing Dirty Projectors' usual trend of evolution. On this record, you will find a lot of whimsical and angular indie pop with sweet melodies, fed through a recording that is endearingly rough most of the time. David's usual songwriting style makes a comeback on this record, which should be pretty familiar to anybody who's been listening to Dirty Projectors for a while, as it is pretty idiosyncratic. And while it is cool to hear Dirty Projectors back on their old stomping grounds in a sense, the results of this album are still pretty mixed. Even if I am enjoying how David has kind of worked in some of the sequence beats and electronic from the last Dirty Projectors album into the group's usual sound. There are quite a few highlights on the record, like the opener Right Now featuring Sid of the internet fame, which kicks off with some very pretty sparkly guitar work, David singing about what sounds like some kind of desolate apocalyptic world. There are lots of honking horn hits on this thing, fuzzy synth leads, some odd polyrhythms too, and even though the lyrics on this track read as being very desolate and dreary, there's almost like a note of personal inspiration coming through on the song too. Sid's very polite and sweet voice works really well into the track too. Her and a league of other guest singers on the record kind of replace the typically chirpy background vocals that one might find on an older Dirty Projectors album. Love the tune on this track, love the blend of pop and soul, and also loving Dirty Projectors still having the knack for making some very beautiful but captivating and oddly shaped melodies and rhythms. The song That's a Lifestyle is most likely my favorite track on the entire record. Features more very rich and slick guitar work, one of the sharpest hooks on the record, some of the smartest lyrics. Who will stop wasting the lives of the brave based on a lie? Who will stop wasting the forest and seas? We know that we'll survive. Who will stop wasting the time? Who will stop putting prodders upon our eyes? Who will not place themselves higher than wait for a senator's prize? A lot of lying, cheating, and dishonesty being displayed throughout the track, a pretty social and political angle. Dirty Projectors very clearly trying to fry some big fish on this one. The track builds up elegantly with these beautiful harmonized background vocals, a swaying drum beat, and some very shouty calls and responses. The lead vocal on the hook is fantastic. The lyrics are super dark and disturbing, and yet the melody David sings here is one of the most beautiful on the entire record. When a monster eats its young. I love the song Bluebird, a very dreamy and slightly psychedelic ballad. There are some subtle beats on this cut, tooting woodwinds, watery electric pianos. It's a pretty little sound palette, some kind of dubby delays in the mix too. I love the gentle vocals on this track, the adorable and kind of lovesick lyrics. You and me and you, something sweet, something new. Fresh and clean, like the beginning. I love the lyrics on this track about a fresh start, a new love, which is actually a theme running throughout most of the songs on this album. I don't exactly know what the catalyst for that is, who the muse for this album was, but whoever it is, that person seems to have left a very large impression on David, as he seems to be singing about pretty much the same love and devotion on the track What Is the Time, on the song You're the One Too, which is a beautiful 60s folk ballad throwback featuring Robin Pecknold of Fleet Foxes fame doing some background vocals. If I'm being honest, I love about half of the album here. The rest of the record, though, feels kind of underwhelming or maybe even grating for a variety of different reasons. While I do appreciate a lot of the lovey-dovey lyrics on this record, I feel like the song Breakthrough might be trying just a little too hard with its references to Keeping It 100 and Julian Casablancas. It's kind of like contemporary corny, I don't know. Also, I cannot stand some of the instrumentation and the mix on this track. Like, there are these really distorted, horrid, revving synthesizers playing throughout much of the track that, honestly, if they weren't there, the track would have been improved greatly. There's also the very funky I Feel energy, the gentrified blend of pop, funk, and soul on this track. Sounds like a Cake instrumental. I might mean that in the best way possible. I really don't know at this point. All I know is that some of the vocal mixing on this track falls kind of flat, and yeah, I'm just not really that much into the tune. Zombie Conqueror, featuring some background vocals from Empress of, has some very good intentions and great ambitions, but I think the slightly rough recording of this cut sucks the potential oomph out of the song a lot, especially as the very flat and flaccid drums and guitars try to hammer away on like these syncopated patterns and riffs that kind of sound the same way that cheap fireworks look. Again, I thought Empress of's background vocals were great. I thought the very angular guitar work on the track was amazing. David's vocals were pretty decent too, but yeah, the track just does not have the push or again the girth that I think a song that's trying to sound this heavy should. The song I Found It in You was another cut that to me just felt like a lot of squandered potential because of a kind of muddy, uninteresting mix. The closing track on here tries to deliver like this very slow, lavish fusion of chamber pop and vocal jazz with a super hushed lead vocal from David that is very underwhelming, very lackluster. I feel like if he really wanted to deliver this track, he could have gone above and beyond vocally. Like, he really could have spotlit his own voice and really let it all out there, but instead he kind of just lets the background instrumentation, the horns, take the reins, even though they're not playing that boldly anyway. They merely sound like accompanying instrumentation for a stronger, bolder vocal. You know, while there is a lot of this record that I came to enjoy, even though I went into it with a lot of reservations, I still feel like as far as the quality of the songwriting and the sound of these songs go, it's very much a mixed bag. It's inconsistent. It's certainly cool to hear Dirty Projectors kind of delivering a sound that is a little more familiar to longtime fans, but I feel like that's all the more reason for the songs and the sound of them to be great, because this is your usual territory over here. You should be killing it. This is not some weird one-off experiment that could have gone really badly. And if you were to take a handful of the best tracks on this album out of the equation, that's easily what it could have been. I'm feeling a decent 2 strong 6 on this thing. Transition, have you given this album a listen? Did you love it? Did you hate it? What would you rate it? You're the best, you're the best. What should I review next? Hit the like if you like, please subscribe, and please don't cry. Just leave a comment in the comments if you're feeling full of thoughts. Over here next to my head is another video that you can check out. Hit that up or the link to subscribe to the channel. Anthony Fantano, Dirty Projectors, forever.